About 9 or 10 years ago, I was helping out with a confirmation retreat, and it was Friday night, and we were preparing for the next day. And I don't eat seafood, so what they had that night was seafood, and so I decided to go into town and get some fast food and fill up my tank because I needed some gas. When I entered the gas station, I filled up my tank, but I wanted a receipt, so I went inside to get a receipt. When I came out, there was a man standing at the door, and he said, "Excuse me, sir, can you spare a couple of dollars? My car ran out of gas a couple of miles down the road, and I'm looking to get a couple of dollars so I can get some gas in my car to bring it to the gas station." And so, not thinking much of anything, I pulled out my wallet and I handed him $2. He turned right around, went back into the store, and bought himself a beer. I felt bamboozled. I felt, lied to. I felt taken advantage of. And if any of us have ever felt that way before, I think we kind of know the way that Jesus is feeling in our gospel today, right? Jesus, Master. Jesus, awesome dude. Jesus, the guy that can heal us. Have pity on us. All 10, right? Have pity on us. And only one comes back. Only one comes back to glorify God. It's a human nature almost that once we get what we want, we stop manipulating. Once we get what we want, we stop entering into relationship. Once we get what we want, we don't need that person that just gave it to us anymore, right? We can go back to the status quo of what it was. Brothers and sisters, we have to remember that Jesus still gave. We believe Jesus Christ is God, and we believe that he is fully God and fully man, and we believe that he knew what was going to happen. He knew that only one would come back before he even healed those people. And yet he still gave. In our times today, we have a tendency to want to make sure that we give to the right things. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, right? We call it vetting, right? We want to vet what is going to happen. Where is my money going in that way? And I think we have to understand that our money normally probably goes to places that we hope are good things. But people are sinful people. People take advantage of charities. People take advantage of different things. There's always going to be corruption in this world because the people that are leading those institutions are not holy, right? Or not totally holy in that way. We're all sinners. But I think we have to understand that God continues to call us to charity. And if we continue to use the excuse, there's always going to be corruption, so I won't give anything, then obviously we're sorely mistaken. Obviously, we're not glorifying God as those nine didn't do as well. Why? Because that is part of Catholic social teaching. We give charity not just because we have a surplus. We give charity not just because this person is fallen on ill times or we want to help people out. We give charity because that is what God has asked us to do. And that is what God himself in the person of Jesus Christ has done. All of the miracles we hear in the gospel, they are charity. They are charity on the way that he helped out people who were vulnerable, people who needed help. It is a divine mandate that we give charity. There was a priest that said a couple years ago that if you were at a grocery store and a poor person saw you at a grocery store, they had a right to take what was in your basket to themselves. I'm not going to go that far. Why? Because Catholic social teaching is very clear. It upholds private property, meaning we have a right to private property, meaning people can't just take it from us on one hand, and it holds up that divine mandate that I just talked about, and that we have to be charitable. We are called to be charitable because God is charitable. And those two things have to be held in tension together. We don't have to give something, and yet God asks us to give something. We don't have to give over property, and yet that is what God calls us to do. God didn't have to suffer and die on a cross for us, and yet that's what he did. And so, my brothers and sisters, let us remember that even though this world is imperfect, and even though charitable institutions that we sometimes give to are imperfect, we still give. We don't support those particular things, those bad things that some people do. We support a cause. We support a good thing. And when we get to the gates of heaven, at least we can say, I gave because you told me to, because I wanted to follow you, because I wanted to be your disciple. Let us enter into that mindset. Let us live godly lives, giving without necessarily asking for anything in return. I was going to put a call out for a movable coat rack, and I went to the Goodwill today and I got this for $5, so I was really happy about that. My brothers and sisters, today we're talking with a mass explanation about the different vestments that priests wear. I don't know if you know this, I don't just wear this because the church says I have to wear this. I do that too, but there's also some great symbolism in the vestments that a priest wears. So there are 5 main things that a priest wears, vestment-wise. Some things have been condensed down, and I'll tell you what thing. The first one is what they call the amice. The amice is this little white square thing with a bunch of the ribbons on it. And what the amice is used for is to cover the priest's neck. Now, I don't wear an alb that wears an amice because most of the albs now that are made today aren't what they call a square yoke. So this is what they call a square yoke alb, as you can see today. This is my pretty fancy one that I never really wear because I don't want to mess it up. Father Andre gave me this. So this is a square yoke one, so I would have to wear this to cover my whole entire black shirt. And so the amice is a beautiful symbol, and this is what it is. The amice, a rectangular piece of white linen cloth, is the helmet of salvation and a sign of resistance against temptation. The priest usually kisses it and passes it over the head before putting it across his shoulders and tying it around the waist. And this is the prayer that the priest says when he puts on the amice. Place, O Lord, on my head the helmet of salvation, that I may overcome the assaults of the devil. The second garment is that of the alb. This is the alb like I showed you before. And like I said, most of them have a collar now, so sometimes we don't wear the amice anymore. The alb is a white tunic which covers the priest's whole body, signifies perfect integrity. This is the prayer that is prayed when we put on the alb. Purify me, O Lord, from all stain and cleanse my heart, that washed in the blood of the Lamb I may enjoy eternal delights. The cincture, the cincture is the rope that I'm wearing right now. I don't know if you can see that, but it's that rope right there. And the cincture is a cord which is fastened to the alb at the waist, symbolizing the virtue of purity. This is the prayer that is prayed over the cincture. Gird me, O Lord, with the cincture of purity, and quench in my heart the fire of concupiscence, that the virtue of continence and chastity may remain in me. One of the other things that we wear is what they call a stole. This is one of the stoles right here. The stole is the long band that fits around the neck, is a symbol of immortality and the sign of the dignity of the ministerial priesthood. This is the prayer that is prayed with the stole. Restore to me, O Lord, the state of immortality which was lost to me by my first parents. And although unworthy to approach your sacred mysteries, grant me nevertheless eternal joy. The outer garment is called the chasuble. Chasuble is the outmost vestment worn by the celebrant at Mass. It is the emblem of charity, which makes the yoke of Christ light and agreeable. This is the prayer. O Lord, you said, my yoke is sweet and my burden is light. Grant that I may carry it so as to obtain your grace. Amen. So those are all the vestments that we have. I have different vestments to show you. So this is a vestment from Poland, so it's nice and glittery. That's the Polish style vestment. And this is what they call a Gothic cut. So Gothic meaning it's a long swooping vestment like the ones I normally wear. One of the other styles of vestments is what they call a fiddleback vestment, and you'll see this is mainly an old-timey vestment. Now, there are disagreements between the more robust priests about the fiddleback vestment. Some robust priests love it because it's airy, right? It's not that big, so you don't sweat as much as you would with other vestments. I personally don't normally wear this style of vestment because I think it makes me look even fatter, you know? So, fat man in a little coat, fat man in a little vestment. The last style of vestment that I want to show you is what they call the Philip Neri cut. And you'll see it's kind of like an in-between cut right here, right? So this one was given to me by Father Andre. It's a Marian vestment. And it's not as swooping as the ones that I normally wear, not like the Gothic, so it's kind of half in between. Like I told you last week with the different colors, sometimes some of these vestments, they'll try to make a blue color as a Marian vestment. Blue is not an official color of the liturgy, but this is one of the ones that I kind of have that is questionable. Can I wear it during Lent? Is it purple? Is it blue? So I normally don't wear it, but this is kind of one of those vestments that it's kind of like a half in between in that way. What our altar servers wear is what they call a cassock and surplice. This is my personal cassock and surplice right here. The cassock is the old garment that priests wear, and a lot of the younger priests today are trying to bring it back. So this is the cassock, and the surplice is the outer garment that we wear during Mass. Some of the other vestments that we have, this is one of Deacon Timmy's vestments. This is what they call a dalmatic. And normally the difference between a dalmatic and a chasuble is normally the sleeves. So if you see a vestment with sleeves on, that's normally mean it's for a deacon instead of for a priest. And then let's see here. This big dog right here, ooh, this one's heavy. This one is what they call a cope, and this is the cope that I wear for all baptisms. It's kind of like cape, in cope, and it's just another form of vestment. Normally, priests will wear them whenever they're blessing things or doing sacraments other than Mass, and so this is what they call a cope right here. So that's some of the vestments that we have. All vestments are vestments, and you could say like all jeans are jeans, meaning just because a priest wears a certain style of vestment doesn't necessarily mean he's holy or not as holy as other priests. It's a style, right? So the symbol is the vestment, not necessarily the style. So you could say someone wears relaxed fit jeans, someone wears bell-bottom jeans, someone wears regular fit jeans. They're all jeans, right? And so just to keep that in mind whenever you see a vestment. One of the last things I want to talk about is what they call this. This is what they call the maniturgia. Did I get that right? No, maniple, excuse me. Maniturgia is something else. This is what they call a maniple, and in the olden times, the priest would wear it around his arm like so. And this actually had a very, very important function. This was the piece of cloth that the priest wiped his forehead with whenever he was sweating. So normally, because we have air-conditioned buildings now, we normally don't wear the maniturgia anymore, but this is one of the other vestments that you could wear.